In the last section, we started talking about object-oriented programming in Dart. In this section, we're going to write out a little bit of code to get a better idea of how classes work in Dart. Later on throughout the course, we'll have a lot more deeper discussions about object-oriented programming and some of the theory behind it. But for right now, let's just write a little bit more code. So to get a better idea of how classes work, you and I are going to create a new class over inside of DartPad. This class is going to model how a person behaves, or kind of model a person just on their own, I suppose. Our person class is going to have one piece of data, or one field, associated with it, which we'll refer to as the person's first name. This first name property, or field, will have a value of type string. And so just like we had before in our last application, we were returning a string of Stephen right here. Essentially, this string is now going to exist on an instance of the person class. After creating that field, we'll then associate a single method with the person class as well. We'll call that method printName. This is going to be a function that takes the person's first name property and then prints it out to the terminal. So in total, this is going to be a class that does very similar behavior to the current program that we have over here. Okay, so let's get started. So back over inside of DartPad, I'm going to highlight all the code that we had before, and I'm going to delete it. We'll then get started by implementing our person class inside of here. Remember, every Dart program we create has to have a main function. So at some point in time, we're going to have to recreate that main function again. But we'll take care of the class first, and then we'll do the main function later. So to create the person class, I will write out the keyword class, and then the name of the class, which is person. Notice that I'm using an uppercase name here. So anytime we create a class, we always use an uppercase leading character. Then inside of the curly braces, we have our class body. At the very top, or the first couple lines inside the class body, we have the opportunity to declare all the different fields that should be associated with this class. You and I want to have a single field of type string, and the field should have a name of first name. So to do so, or to actually implement that, we'll write out string, first name, and then a comma, or excuse me, a semicolon like so. So this declares a new field of type string called first name on the person class. Next, we'll add on a method called printName. And anytime we call this, we want to log out the value of this person's name. So back over inside of DartPad, I can add on a method by writing out the name of the method first, which is going to be printName, then a set of parentheses, and then a set of curly braces. So this looks like identical syntax to the functions that we were looking at earlier in our last program that we put together. Then inside of these curly braces, we can add some code to be executed anytime this method runs. So in this case, we want to print out this person's first name property. So to do so, I'll write out simply print first name. Now one thing you'll notice here is that to reference the first name property that belongs to this person, we simply wrote out first name. This is a little bit different than in many other languages, particularly Java or JavaScript, where you might write out first this dot and then the actual property name. This right here, adding in the this dot, is completely valid syntax inside of Dart. So if you want to write out long form this dot and then the property name that you're trying to refer to, you absolutely can, but it's not required by Dart. If you just write out the property name that you're trying to reference and leave off the this dot, Dart is still going to figure out what you're trying to do and kind of fill in the blanks from there. Okay, so this in total has defined our first person class. Remember, this is just kind of a blueprint of sorts, and we can't actually use this just yet. Before making use of the person class, we have to use it to create an object or an instance of that class. And then once we have that instance, we can actually start to assign or set some data inside the instance. So let's come back to the next section, and we'll take care of that in the next video.